So this week we are talking about something that we get asked a lot in our emails. You are wanting to get back to exercise. Maybe your youngest child is like 7, 8, older, and you feel like you've left it too late to ask for help. You're a bit embarrassed to ask a question. You've still got stuff going on from pregnancy and birth. How do you safely get back to exercise? And you know, where are you going to get the right advice? What should you start with? So that's what we are going to talk about today, because as I said, we're getting a lot of inquiries at the moment, because I think where things are feeling like they're returning to some kind of normality, it's nice. We're getting lots of inquiries of people wanting to come and join us, and that is one of the big things that people ask us. So I'm Karen.
I'm Chris.
We're here Wednesday afternoon. We hope you're well. We've had has this week been interesting? You had an interesting weekend, didn't you?
Yeah, it was alright.
Sounds like I'm talking to a child.
I know.
Chris won a cup. You're going to get the cup out. Come on. I'm going to get the cup out. He won a golf cup at the weekend. He was away. Hang on. Can't leave it. Thank you. Isaac, are you going to bring it into shot? Thank you very much. He went to Celtic Manor and won a big trophy. Look, even bigger if you bring it up to the screen. Woohoo! There we go. Got very sulky, didn't you?
Yeah.
Have you dried out now?
I have. Yeah.
Also, thought you might want an update on the 7-day t-shirt. Do you remember the Icebreaker t-shirt?
Now that is more interesting. So if you aren't aware, I didn't believe that Icebreaker, who make merino wool garments, can provide and have created a 7-day t-shirt. And the big thing on social media was people wearing these t-shirts and reporting back after 7 days of continual wear. I haven't found a t-shirt yet that can withstand 2 days of heavy duty Coach Chris wear, let alone 7 days. Now, I'll be honest, for the first 5 days, I went a bit light because I was concerned about Karen's nose would pick up any scent and that t-shirt would be hanging outside the day after. So
don't be put in the freezer, that's what I do with really stinky ones.
So first 5 days, fairly light use, but then I went all in, 2 days heavy duty, wore it to work, got a little bit sweaty.
Tell me that.
Went for a little run, wore it there. So it's the big reveal, 7-day.
Am I going to gag?
Right,
How is
ready?
the t-shirt? Will I wash it with my clothes? That's the other big tip.
There you go, 7 days.
Do you know what?
What?
It's borderline now.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'd say that's the point where it's no longer attractive pheromones.
So it's not fresh, basically.
No.
So,
but given how much you've used it, it's quite disgusting. But yeah.
Why?
Well, you've worn it for 7 days.
It's only me though.
Oh.
No, it feels great. After 3 days, it reminds me of camping.
Oh no.
You after a 3rd day of camping, you start to feel as if your clothes are just like you, like a layer of skin.
I couldn't do that.
That's
I couldn't
great.
wear the same clothes.
That's great.
It's like people that wear socks 2 days in a row. I'm like, oh.
Consistency, that's what we need in our lives. So I'm going to do a little shout out to Icebreaker and say, you know what, on a serious note, it is about being greener and not washing your clothes off and buying as many things. So I thought, you know what?
As in me being greener.
I'm all for that.
You.
Well, and also my wife not being green as well. So yeah, they're pretty good. So it's not an endorsement, but it is. I think it's a really good idea.
You bought it yourself.
Yeah.
It's breathable, and actually, I know some. If you've got teenage sons, for example, there can be issues around breathability of training tops. Polyester's not good. Spotty backs, all that kind of thing. Hello, Helen Jane. So really good top. Oh, and the other really exciting thing that happened this week, is that we did you didn't. I did an in-person Pilates class. So if you haven't seen on my reels, our reels, we did a class yesterday in a new venue to us, really lovely little venue just outside of Epping. Poor Tamsin, unfortunately, thought she knew where she was going.
Got lost.
She got lost. She didn't put the postcode in, and she ended up going around lots of single track roads in Epping. But other than poor Tamsin, who got a little bit lost on the way, it was a really nice venue. We had a lovely class. It was a bit weird. And what's really exciting is that now we can do the triple threat. Do you know what the triple threat is?
Go for it.
In-person class, live stream class, recorded class. Triple threat. So that's very exciting. So hopefully we can bring more of our classes that way, because we've got some onliners only and we've got some in-personers now. And on that note, in-person classes. So our run club is currently in person on the hill. And from after half term, we will be doing the odd one here and there in person, mainly because the hall that we mainly use is still not open to renters. And we still have to do the whole 2 metre thing because our insurance and any fitness instructor's insurance won't cover you for, you know, the whole getting any closer than that. So it's not like we're being difficult, we're just following the rules. So so that's this week's excitement. It was very exciting.
How was it face to face?
I was a bit tired. I was a bit overexcited, and I confess that after that and book club last night, I was a bit pooped this morning. But we woke up. We did move and tone this morning. Low impact body conditioning. Really great class actually, and I felt fine after that. So it's all about me, but no, it did. It pepped us up. So let's get back to the job in hand, the task in hand. Let's say Jenny has had a baby. Maybe she had 2, quite close together. She was a very busy lady because she was working and she had those 2 children, and she didn't really have time for herself to do anything. She felt like she ought to be doing something postnatally, but she kind of missed the boat. And now, 7 years down the line from having her last baby, she wants to get back into doing some kind of exercise, but feels a bit embarrassed to ask because she's still got issues around the pelvic floor, maybe pelvis, tailbone, coccyx pain, lower back pain, doesn't really know what's going on. Has maybe had a bit of a break from exercise over lockdown. I won't explain why, because we all know that. Tried to go back to do some exercise and she's in pain, and now she feels really like she wants to do something but really frustrated because she doesn't quite know how to get started. So that's a little picture I've drawn for you, because that's sort of typical people that we get asking us questions. So here we go. Do not be afraid to ask us the question, because actually I don't judge you. If you email me and you said, I've heard that you teach postnatal classes, but my youngest is however old, do you know what? You're coming to ask for some advice. I don't care. I'm not going to judge you on that. Issues around the pelvic floor, I would expect it if you hadn't done anything and you'd had issues after your first baby and you haven't really been active since. I would expect, oh, hang on a minute, have you lost us? I would expect, sorry, there we are. Hang on, sorry, I think you just missed a bit. So I'm just going to go back a little bit. My phone just switched off. So I would expect there to be some deterioration in your pelvic floor function if you hadn't done anything about it. And again, really normal. That's going to get worse post-menopause as well, or perimenopause. So if you're approaching, because the collagen in your body will be depleting and your hormone levels will be changing, so that can affect things. So here are some steps to getting you back into activity post baby. In terms, I'm going to talk pelvic floor, and I'm going to hand over to Chris to talk a little bit more about
CrossFit induced diets,
ligaments.
Well,
and
that's the answer, isn't it? CrossFit induced diets.
No, it's not the answer.
But my point being is, this is what people seem to be drawn to. Because why are they drawn to CrossFit?
Let's digress, shall we?
Why are they drawn to CrossFit induced diets?
It appears to get you fit. I think if you're in that position, you feel a bit desperate, you really want to do something about it. And things like CrossFit or running a marathon or juice diets, you feel like you're going to get results really quickly. But actually what quite often happens is you make complications, let's talk about down there, worse. I know of a few women who've come to my postnatal classes. They've been fit before they've had a baby, typically a little bit older. So women that are very active, but maybe not had babies until their late 30s, early 40s, which is far more common now. And so, but the trouble with that is your body's obviously not getting any younger. So your ligaments and pelvic floor will take a little bit more work to get back to really good function in order for you to be able to do boot camps and things. So anyway, I digress. So I've had people that have gone to, you know, I'm going to call it Ben's boot camp or Fred's boot camp. What's going on there?
He's changed settings.
I don't know how to. You can do it.
Settings.
Okay. All right.
Auto turn off.
Well, I can't do that now.
No.
Okay, I did Google it. Anyway, and then they come back to me and they've got issues, you know, and it might put them off because they don't want to do the boot camp and they might not be able to tell their friend that invited them why they don't want to do the boot camp. But guess what? You can tell us because we're not going to judge you. And actually, we kind of need to know what the problem really is, not just, oh, I've got a bit of back pain. Need to know what the problem really is. So if we're not beating around the bush here, a bit of stress incontinence or worse, wind as well. So something around the back passage, feelings of heaviness or bagginess, a kind of signs of a prolapse. And also all of these things can be worse around the time that you're ovulating and just before your period as well. So if you were to do, that boot camp or that thing that you want to do, or go running, and you're just, it's that time of your cycle where you're ovulating, it's going to make it feel a little less secure and a little worse. So let's start with the fact that roll it back. You can go back to exercise, and if you want to do a boot camp, we're not saying don't, but there are a few steps you need to take before. And we're always talking about progression. And so you're going to need to start with basics. And those basics, when it comes to really, let's focus on your pelvic floor and your core, are pelvic floor exercises. So a really good pelvic floor program, not just Kegels. Kegels are great if you want to spend your rest of your life just standing up and sitting at a desk working. There's a lot more that you need to be doing if you want to be active. Also, getting a really strong legs, bottom, because they're going to help support your pelvic floor area. And then also the dirty word, core, but something like Pilates, or really good core strength. But we're not talking crunches or planks or things like that to start off with. We're talking about having a really good, again, it's mindset, understanding of how your body is working. So we would take exercises back to basics, and then we would progress them up to something more challenging. So I created, I've got a really nice postnatal program that is fitness and pelvic floor combined. So we do, hang on, sorry, phone's about to ring. So as well as the in-person classes with me, there are 3 pelvic floor specific workouts, 3 strength and conditioning specific workouts that I send my ladies to do. So if you felt like you wanted to maybe do Pilates rather than the postnatal specific class, then that's something that we could talk about getting to you, to just go through those really simple steps. So pelvic floor, strength and conditioning. And it's, again, it's not it's not CrossFit style. It's not kind of something that you're not going to be learning to lift Olympic weights. This is just real, squats, lunges, making sure you feel comfortable doing all of that, making sure you can get your bottom working, because actually quite often, if you've been sitting down a lot, your bottom stopped working, your pelvic floor isn't working as effectively. So that would be my first step that I would say. Just take it back to pretty much the stuff that I would do with my new mums, which would be the very specific pelvic floor exercises and the basic strength and conditioning program for legs and bottom. So I'm going to talk a little bit. The other reason why you might, let's just go back to Jenny, the example of Jenny. And so her youngest baby is now 7 or 8, and she wants to get back to exercise. But the other thing that's going to compound the issue, if she hasn't sorted out pelvic floor post-baby, is she's got older. Jenny's got older, and that can have a significant impact on your tendons and your joints. So Chris, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, the CrossFit induced diets was it was tongue in cheek, but there's a very serious point to that. Many people see that and they are drawn to how they want to exercise and how they want to look by the way their friends or maybe someone who does those different exercises looks. So that's great to have those goals and aspirations, but what the problem you don't have is you're not aware of what's happening under the hood. That's where you need professional guidance. As Karen mentioned, when you add or layer age on top of maybe having 2 children, being
and
stressed,
excess weight as well.
and excess weight, you are not, you're not even the same person you were 5 years ago, let alone adding to those life events we talked about earlier. I can't train anywhere near the way I trained now compared to what I was like when I was in my mid-30s, and then early 30s and mid to late 20s. So you first have to have a real sort of heart-to-heart with yourself and know where your starting point is. As Karen mentioned, taking it right back, but it's knowing where your starting point is. Forget about the goal, it's the stepping stone to get there. If you're a little bit impatient, you've got to figure out a way to rein that in and find a way to get you hooked into the easy basic stuff. If you can't do that, that's why you need to get into a class and do the class, because you won't do it. You won't. Some people say to me, "Oh, I know what to do now. I'll do the exercises at home." No, you won't. You won't at all, because you're thinking about the fun stuff that you want to do compared to what you're doing right now.
I was going to say, actually, so something that I mentioned to someone earlier is if you have had a bit of a gap from exercise, let's be realistic. One of the reasons you've had a big gap from exercise is because you didn't find time to do it, you weren't motivated to do it, and you don't now have a regular exercise habit. So actually, something like a regular class that you can book in for, aside from what it's going to do for your body physically, mentally, it's going to get you into that pattern of doing something regularly on a regular basis. And as I said to someone in an email today who asked me how many times a week should you do Pilates to see a result, I said to her, well, actually, consistency is key. So you do one class a week, every week for 4 weeks, much better for you than doing 2 classes a week for 2 weeks and then slacking off.
Yeah.
So one of the ways that you can, and this is, you know, when we're talking about getting back into a regular exercise habit, we often think about the physical things that we need to do, but actually mindset is key. So thinking about, okay, how am I going to make that habit happen? And as much as this all sounds very technical, the things that we have to do to try and get back into exercise, try and reframe it as something really positive. So rather than thinking, I mean, no one thinks, oh, it's time for my pelvic floor exercises today, yippee. How about, right, it's a bit like having a savings fund that you are going to save, instead of saying, oh, I'm saving to pay off this credit card debt. Instead of that, you're saving to buy, you know, a nice day out with the family, or giving things to other people. And it's the same when it comes to your health. You're creating a pattern, something in your mindset where you think, do you know what, if I get this sorted, actually, I can then take my youngest running with me and we can do that thing together. Well, that might not be something that appeals to you, but like going to play tennis or going on a trampoline with your kids, or feeling confident to get into a swimming costume on the beach, or take, you know, a group of friends swimming. It's that something that you can reframe that's much more positive than thinking, oh, my pelvic floor is beeped, and I need to do something about it every day. Yeah, try and think not just about, oh, I've left it too long, I don't want to ask, I'm really embarrassed, and think again about how you can reframe that as something really positive that you can do for yourself, because that's how you're going to create a habit that sticks. And really, that's the most important thing. We could talk till we're blue in the face about what's really important for your pelvic floor and your core and your longevity. But if your brain hasn't switched to the point that you really want to do that for yourself, it ain't going to happen.
No, so you do have to find a way to almost entertain that part of you, or that split personality side of you that gets impatient, wants to be doing CrossFit tomorrow, wants to be 2 or 3 stone lighter, wants to be running marathons quicker, because that's a goal in the future which you just leave hanging. And if you hit that, fair enough, but for the time being, you've got to break it down into short goals. And the goals need to be, again, as mentioned earlier, based on some observable truths, which are, we're older. So tendons, as you get older, tendons are less elastic than when we are younger, and therefore they take a little bit longer to adapt between exercise sessions. So you can actually train, not notice anything in your tendons at all over several weeks. You can see improvements, you feel that you're getting fitter and stronger, and all of a sudden, bang, they can go. That's just an issue with aging, unfortunately. So you do have to factor in rest and recovery. So once you know where your starting point is, you can then plot over the next 4 to 6 weeks some really small goals, such as I'm going to be able to maybe walk around the block without getting out of breath. People do poo-poo walking quite a bit. Don't know why they do. But I mean, I'm not a fan of walking.
You're not a fan of walking, are you? You poo-poo walking.
Yeah, but at the leisurely kind of, oh, let's look at the flowers pace, it's just not for me. I like to walk with a purpose. I like to walk somewhere. I like to get my weighted vest on. You know, I like to walk as if I'm getting somewhere in a certain amount of time. But that gets me out of breath. So the first thing is you get your cardiovascular system used to, and your body and your joints used to, a bit of exercise. As Karen mentioned earlier, it's much better to have a couple of hits in the week and keep that going than it is to do two or three really hard sessions. I know how to get this goal quicker. It's to get in as many hard sessions as possible in a short period of time, and that's what's going to get me going. No, it's not. It's keeping those short bursts going, even if it's 3 times 10-minute walks a week for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Could be walking the children to school.
Just getting yourself moving. And you know what? If you're walking the kids to school, Walk quicker. Get your heart rate up. Get your feet used to the impact. Get your joints used to the impact. Then on top of that, you might layer on top of that maybe a bit of running back. So you might walk to school, jog back. After that, you might think, I want to do some body weight exercises. Or some people often say to me, I want to do weights. Well, that's good. You want to do weights, but can you control your body weight? If you can't control your body weight, you've got no right to be lifting weights, because we are a weight. I mean, all a weight does is it increases the load through the joints. That's all a weight does.
This is where Pilates is a really good starting point for a lot of people, and not just for it being a body weight resistance training program, but also because it's a little slower moving and it feels less scary than kind of weights as in a gym. It often increases people's confidence. So that's one of the things, and that's why it's such a lovely entry level class, because people come, they start to understand the exercises. About 4 weeks down the line, they're like, oh, my body can do this. And then you get more confidence to add something else.
So you've layered on top of that your body weight exercises. Then once you've got control in, let's say you're at home, you haven't got much equipment, and you are looking at a squat, a lunge, a press up, various plank exercise, there are various ones to do. I would also incorporate any lower or hip flexor and lower abdominal exercise, or rather than lower abdominal exercises.
I'm making this quite complicated now, Chris. So what do you think? What are you talking about?
I was about to finish them, but you spoke my flow. You did a Brooks Koepka. I don't want to get that joke though.
No.
Brooks Koepka really put someone down about doing that. So your lower abdominals, and people often go those crunches that don't really do very much. You want to have more control of your hips, to be able to rotate your hips, pelvis backwards, so your back is flat on the floor when you're lying on your back. And you do a lot of this in Pilates, because if you can't have that, you haven't got that hip control, it's very difficult to incorporate that in a weights exercise session. Because if you can't control your legs with just body weight, how are you going to control them when you add more weight onto your body, onto your hips as well? So there are just some few key things to think about, whether you can complete those at a good level, and us or someone you know, an exercise professional, will be able to give you a set of exercises to do to be able to build up and progress to. And after 4 to 6 weeks, if you can complete those, then you can incorporate some weight and resistance training into that. Now, you might find that some people have strength differences between the upper and lower body. Typically, many people are strongest on the lower body. Women tend to be stronger on the lower body than upper body, and women tend to avoid exercises in general. Not in our classes, because we encourage them to do that anyway, but they may avoid doing any upper body exercises such as press-ups, or in gyms pull-ups as well, because they feel as if they can't do them. Well, the reason why they can't do them is because they're not strong enough. It's nothing to do with
do you know that there was actually someone shared yesterday, someone had said, so this was an expert, had said that women should never do push-ups from their toes because they're not designed for it.
Oh God,
It's again like I pop that glass ceiling on us again. That's nonsense.
Who said that?
Oh, I can't remember. Off the top of my head, I can find it. I'll share it with you. I knew you'd be equally as dismayed as I was.
So let me just let that just wash over me a second. So, for example, if you can't do a press up, you can construct a program, which we did together, around ways to improve that. And the press up is the measure. You don't have to do press ups for the rest of your life, but it's a way to objectively measure whether your shoulder and your pec and the arm can take load in that position. That's all we're doing. And once you can, then you can make it more interesting by changing your grip. You can start to do some weights as well. You can change your angle as well. But the fundamental issue is if you can't take your body weight down to the floor and back to the top, then we need to work on strength. Same, not at home, but if you went to a gym doing a pull-up. I mean, I had one client and all we did is we tried to do a pull-up, and our whole program was based around doing a pull-up, where she had over 6 to 8 months, I would say probably in excess of 30 exercises to do, all geared around doing that pull-up. Now, the pull-up was a test, but the other things were trying to get her to that point, and she did. She could do 3 pull-ups, and she really enjoyed that. Now, point being is, you need to figure out where your body is, where it wants to go, and then you insert the right exercises into that to get to that goal. You don't just find an exercise off YouTube or CrossFit, and CrossFit is great, by the way. I always mention CrossFit, but people seem drawn to it because it looks intense. People seem drawn to that because it looks great, it looks sexy, and you see them on Instagram.
Let's go vegan and do CrossFit.
It's just, you just need to find a way to progress your program. So that's where we would start. we start with right at the basics at square one, and then you get your cardiovascular system working first, and then you start doing the bodyweight exercises, do some Pilates too, you layer it, you get some tests, you put your program together, and then when you look back, you're so far down the line from where you started. This is the fun bit. You think, wow.
Do yourself a little chart as well. I think that's really important. You know how if you are a parent and you've done rewards charts for your kids, do yourself a little chart so that you can see it in, you know, your progress. You can think, wow, I was there then. Same is true for pelvic floor. I always suggest people actually measure how long they can hold a lift for, how many hops that they can do. And these are the sort of things we progress in a program. So measure what you're doing so that you can see your progress, and that really gives you a sense of, oh, look what I can do now.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, never too late, but you might need to go back to those postnatal basics, and it's fine to ask. Please don't feel embarrassed. Even if you feel like you need to do that one-to-one because you do feel a bit embarrassed, that's absolutely fine. We are here, or we've got programs that we can share with you. Find something that you can do regularly. Consistency is key. So walking, cardio, all really good for your heart and lungs. Also for the impact in your joints, which therefore also means in your pelvic floor. Maybe try and find a friend you can do that with, so you've got a bit of accountability. And in terms of mindset, see if you can shift this, reframe this, so it's something that's fun and exciting that you're aiming for, rather than thinking, oh, I'm out of shape, I'm doing something about it. That's a real kind of, you're trying to come away from something goal. Instead, you want to try and find something that you're going towards, something that's much more positive, a fun thing, for like fun things. So think of this like an instant access savings account, right? So find the thing in the first instance that you can get reward from quickly. Because once you've done that, then you can go to the kind of long-term investments, the 90-day retrieval. But we're on instant access savings at the moment. Layer on some body weight, get some expert advice if your pelvic floor is an issue. And also that sometimes might mean being referred on to a women's health physiotherapist. Again, they will not laugh at you if you go to see them kind of 10 years after your last child. That's not a problem. And then we think about layering on things like strength and conditioning once those foundations are done. And if that all sounds massively complicated, that's why we're here doing our classes, doing all of this hard work for you. So we've just created the program so you can just turn up and join in and feel that sense of achievement.
But definitely with the weights and the strength and the conditioning work, what's really important is you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, because we haven't got the time. I say we, the collective we, the older we get, you haven't got time to really guess at stuff. And and what you're doing is, this is a rebuild for how you want your body to function for the next 10, 15, 20 years. In your 20s and early 30s, you really exercising because it's fun, you enjoy it, and you're in the loop. I'm not saying you can't be like that as we get older, but it was less about building your body for the next 60 to 70 years when you were in your 20s exercising.
It was undoing your lifestyle.
Yeah, but now, 30s, 40s and 50s and beyond, many people, their mindset shifts to, I actually want my body to be able to function in a particular way, to be active with my friends, family, partners, kids. That's the new goal. So I think if you can get that in your head that it's a long-term project, and you break the goals down, then you will be on the road to getting there. But just feel that it's a much bigger and a better and a brighter goal than it used to be, and you're not in the same place you were mentally now than when you were in your sort of early 20s.
Yeah, I mean the trouble is what we see now in terms of fitness is fitness influencers. And I'll pick an example. Mark Wright's just published a book this week. I know he's done a lot of training, he's done a lot of football. He's got a lot of celebrities involved, and his book is this is how he described it: how I train, what works for me, written down in a book. That's great for Mark Wright and anyone else who wants Mark Wright's goals and shares his DNA and shares his mindset and shares his outlook on life and has his lifestyle and has the time available and the weights available to do that. That's great for Mark Wright, and I'm not going to diss that in any way. However, that might not, in quite fact, probably would not. And let's just, compare like for like, would not be a program that a 50-year-old male who's been inactive for some time would benefit from. They might benefit in some ways, but the point I'm making is don't just take a you know, a workout from a shelf or joining an influencer because your mate's doing them and they like them and they get lots out of them. If you've got specific problems going on, if you are weeing when you are jumping, when you're joining in with one of these influencer workouts, it's not right. You need to peel it, you need to take it back and get some better advice. So when we're older, unfortunately, it does need to be a little bit more considered and a bit more bespoke. And you can't just sort of grab what works for someone else and hope it will work for you.
No.
That sounds really negative, but you know what we're saying here, yeah? So find the thing that's you're gonna enjoy and that you're gonna feel good about, because you don't want to, you know, try a workout and just think, well, I hated that, so now I'm not going to do any exercise again. And that's why we're always saying, find the thing that you enjoy. Don't feel that you have. Don't feel like there's only one way of doing this. Yeah, there's lots of different ways. And if your way is taking the dog for a walk and looking at the nice trees in the forest, then that's great.
But be positive, because the outlook is great. You know,
Yes.
once you get over that bump, I'm telling you now, you will think, wow, I feel amazing. I'm in the habit of exercising. I'm starting to feel more comfortable in my skin. When I take my clothes off, I feel that things look different. You will feel the feeling you get from that, because it's not about an aesthetic, I guess, norm to place on people. I'm not saying that at all, but just the fact that you feel more toned, that your muscles are actually working, that you can feel that you've got shape beneath your body. You don't feel quite as soft, right? You feel you've got glutes. You know, your trousers and your jeans or whatever, they sit differently. All those are really important. If no one, if people out there think that that's not important, you're deluding yourself, right? Because that's not just about look and judging someone how they look. It's actually how your body functions. As Karen mentioned earlier, one quick thing to mention is about glutes or your bum, right? When your glutes have tone to them, readiness for exercise, and they have good amount of size, they will sit higher up, and your trousers and jeans will sit differently.
We spoke about this a few weeks ago, didn't we? Bum shape.
They will sit differently. We'll use the word different, not good about differently. And they'll sit a little higher up, and you think, oh yeah, the shape has changed. So there are things which will change, and you'll think, wow, that feels amazing. Keep that to yourself. Some people out there might think, oh, but you should be happy with the way you are. And you know what? Sometimes some people, I think, you've got to try and cut out the dead wood in your life, right? There's going to be some dead, and I'm going to just, one last little rant. I have a little rant every time we have this chat, but one last little rant is the dead wood. And you have dead wood in bad energy. And some people will say, well, you're fine, you should need to change. If you don't feel as if your body's functioning the way you want it to function, and you're thinking about the next 10, 15, 20 years, or maybe you've seen some elderly relatives get frail. That's one of our other Instagram lives, by the way. One of your relatives has got frail, or you want to be active and more sporty with your kids and your family, and you think, I want to just do more things to look better. That is up to you. That's your goal. That's precious to you, and no one has the right to try and talk you out of it. And if they do, you've got to cut them out to get your head in the zone to know who's my support group or my support network to help me stay fitter and active, because we all have those people who are great to go down to the pub or have a drink, or go book club, or we always know those ones who are going to be there when you're going to go for a walk or game of tennis or game of football, whatever it is. So you've got to try and find who's going to be on your side to say, look, I've got a real personal goal. I want to, over the next few years, get fitter, healthier, move more. You've got to stick to those, and you've got to try and cut out the ones who aren't really going to be helping you. You absolutely have to. And I think it's easier once we have kids. It's much easier to do this because, I think once you've been stripped bare with the kids' scathing comments and criticisms over the years, you're much less. Why is
your bottom so wobbly?
You're much less less agreeable. So you'll be able to say, yeah, it's great, but I'm going to stay in for the next week. I've got some stuff to got to sort out. You just got to figure out a way to cut out the dead wood. Doesn't need to be people. It could be the way you think. It could be bad habits. So my little rant is to try and help to get you motivated to think that, yes, you can do it. You've just got to make that change. You've just got to see and get over that bump, and then you've got to just cut a few things out that are dragging you back. And I'm telling you'll feel amazing.
Are you going to look at the man or the woman in the mirror and tell them to make a change?
Correct.
That's what we're going to do. So we're going to end on that Michael Jackson note.
Yeah.
If you want to make the world and yourself a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change. Over and out.